What's going on, everybody? Welcome to WAEofFishing. I'm glad you're here. Before I get into this video, I want to point out the new shirt. Make sure you go and check out the new shirts. We've got some new merch in the store. Link will be below this video. If you guys watched the other video where I tore the boat down to rebuild it, I kind of reluctantly did that because building a boat is exceptionally hard and it's very frustrating. As I sit right now, I've had to walk away from this build for about 2 or 3 days, at least 2.5 days, just because I got to a point where I kind of broke. I spent 3 solid days, all day and night, just working on this boat and figuring out where to put what and who did what, and I just brain fogged. I had to stop. So I'm gonna spend tonight editing and just take a break from problem solving on the boat. But what you are about to see is the culmination of all of the 4 builds I've done before this. This is my 5th build. I get better every single time. This is the absolute best frame I can build with my budget and the materials I have at hand and the materials I choose to use. So in my case, the material I choose to build my boats out of is aluminum ladder. It is super strong, it's aluminum, you don't have to seal it, it will never take on water, it's not gonna rot as long as you don't put treated plywood against it, and it's one hell of a building material that I can get super dirt cheap. If you spend enough time prep work ahead of time, you can find ladders. I found an 18-foot ladder for $50. Now, when you take 18 feet, you cut the rungs out, you have 36 feet of aluminum ladder. I had some ladder left over from the boat I built for Bass Lover, and then I've had some ladder that I pulled out of this boat when I tore it down. Now, I'm gonna tell you, if you spend the time, you can find that ladder, because I went to Home Depot to get some different material, and the guy was interested in what I was doing, and as I got to talking to him, he pulls out his business card and hands it to me. He said, hey, if you're interested, I've got a 16-foot extension ladder at home, and it's broken, same way you described, and I'd let it go for 40, 45 bucks. Well, guess what? That's another 32 feet of aluminum ladder. And I didn't even try to find it. So if you spend some time, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, salvage yards, people who buy consignment or denied freight or salvage, they run up on ladders. Just do some networking, do some looking around, ask people. People who do roofing, they break ladders all the time. There's ladder out there for you to get. So this is the very best frame that I can build using aluminum ladder. Guys, there's over 40 feet of aluminum in this boat. I don't have to do uprights because the aluminum ladder could span a 6-7 foot gap and not give out under 2 men standing on it. So I'm not worried about it. So I don't have to take the time to rivet aluminum supports. I don't have to worry about corners and junctions and that sort of thing. And I only spent 50 bucks. If you were to buy all of the 1 inch or 1.5 inch, 16th gauge, 1/16 thickness, aluminum angle to do a boat this size, you'd spend about $200 to $300. I talked to Naheem at Bass Brothers DMV, and he was somewhere plus 200 for the boat he built. His boat is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Dude is a serious, attention to detail OCD. I had to call him, man. I was like, dude, you used a pair of hair clippers on your carpet? Are you kidding me? He shaved the carpet for fitment. Dude is over the top. But go check his boat out, man. It was absolute phenomenal build. Like I said, this is the best I can do. This is the culmination of all my skill and ability and creativeness within my budget. Now, when you watch this video, keep in mind that all of in this boat, with the screws and the aluminum, I'm probably in for about $60. So $60 versus $300, $200. If you got the funds, go all out. Maybe one day I will build a Michael Lopez fire ant fishing tin can crew boat. I love watching those things. Maybe one day I'll be able to get me one of those. But right now I've got this, and this is fire because I am building rod lockers, and it's gonna have 9 hatches and everything. I'm moving the trolling motor. I'm creating wire. It's just gonna be the best boat I ever built. So I'm gonna stop talking. Make sure you go grab a shirt. Here's the time lapse and the walkthrough of my Jon Boat, my 1436, framed in aluminum, the best frame I've ever done. Stay tuned. This boat's gonna be a beast.
This is a Chucky Beat production. This is a Chucky Beat production. Always got the vibe. Always got the vibe.
So let's pull back the tarp. I'm gonna have to put the tarp back. And I apologize. I am shooting this handheld. So y'all get what you get. Okay, so the rod locker didn't change. The rod locker is still supported. I did make the cuts. I'll show y'all on the other side because the tarp's in the way. But I want to show y'all the actual completed front deck. Now, I know I don't need this level of aluminum, and I probably got about 4 times as much weight in the boat as I need. But I will tell you guys, even with all this aluminum framing in the boat, 2 people can still pick this Jon Boat up and carry it down the driveway. So it could be, definitely could be lighter, but it's still, as far as very budget frames go, and mind you, this whole frame, every single piece of framing in this boat, the stainless steel screws and the ladder, I'm in for 60 bucks. Okay, so keep that in mind. I did say this was the budget build, and I like to repurpose things, so that's what you get. So what you're looking at, if I can get my finger in the shot, right here, see that hole? This is going to be electrical. So that's going to be, I'm going to trim this out. When you open these hatches, you will not see ladder. And then in here will be the breaker for the trolling motor, the negative bus bar switch. My switch panel is going to access through this port in the ladder here to control all my switches in the boat. And maybe something else will be in there, I don't know. Probably a toggle to disconnect the 12-volt power. The boat will have a 12-volt power, a charger, and then 24 volts of power for the trolling motor, and then the fishing rod, the rod locker pass through. Okay, let's walk around a little bit and look. All the ladder pieces that are in here, those are for the supports. They're going to hold the batteries. So we're going to build a whole floor in here to support the weight of the batteries, and everything should be all gravy and wavy. And then over there is going to be a shallow storage. These storage areas That is 3 inches. So I got 3 inches of depth with the plywood running across the top. So that should give me a very good day box on that side, just to throw my keys and whatever other little small things. I could probably drop my cell phone in there and everything, and wouldn't really have to worry about it. Right here, as I said, will be the battery compartment. This will be a hatch that will fold up, guys, and I'm going to have to mount the front pedestal seat mount in this hatch. Not what I wanted to do, but the more and more I looked at it and measured it, because that's the back support for where the recess for the trolling motor pedal will be here. This will be a hatch, and that will be a hatch. So the distance from the pedal to the seat has to be within a range. I think I wrote it somewhere. See right here where it says seat bracket? I think it says 22 inches. 19 is the utmost shortest distance I could put, but either way, from 22 to 19 puts me right in the bracket. So I had to pick. So I picked on the larger side. I would have been in a hatch either way I went. So we'll brace that and make it work. I do need to put some bracing in there. So if you look, I doubled the aluminum ladder just to give me some more surface. I'm gonna have to go buy some aluminum angle to put in here just to hinge the door. But what's happening is this bench is warped. So if you look, I can actually bend that support. I've got to lock that in. So what I'm gonna do is actually put a bracket over there against that surface that will lock this in. I make the brackets out of the aluminum ladder scraps. Super strong and again cheap. Actually find a lot of joy in trying to make this ladder work for what it was not intended to work for, rather than buying a bunch of store-bought stuff. But again, just depends on what you want to do with your build. Day box, battery, electrical, pedestal, seat, storage. I'm hoping that this storage ends up big enough that I could put 2 life jackets and a fire extinguisher in there, maybe a rain jacket or something. Right here in front of this compartment going forward, that's a nice little rectangle, and that's going to be storage. And then that next compartment right here is going to be storage, and this distance in here is 11 inches across. So before, when I shot the video, this brace and that brace were not in. That looked the same and this looked the same, but I didn't know where to put the bracing. Now, in between here is 11 inches and in between there is 11 inches. I think I'll be fine spanning that gap with 1/2 inch plywood. Floor joists are 3/4 ply and they're 16 inches on center. I'm 12 inches on center or less, so they should be fine. Now over here, little problem I ran into, but these are actually really light and very easy to work with. So these are the rungs that I cut out of the ladder. I had to put these in here, and what I did was, you don't really notice it, but I riveted those. Those are pop rivets. This is above the water line, but I riveted them. The water line is like down here, so I'm way above water line. I riveted those in because what happened here when I cut the cardboard template that's back there, what I ran into here is this is a hatch. So I'm splitting the difference here. There just wasn't enough to fasten the wood on top of this. Like, it overhangs, but it overhangs about as wide as my finger. And that's just not enough. Even though I would probably never stand here, that just was a bad design. So what we did was we put the ladder rungs, they were flat on one side, which made it really great. They're separate, so they're easy to follow the curve of the boat. And we riveted those to the side of the hull to support this joint. Now, what we did, if you can look, like, we're really level here. So what we actually did was we put a piece of ladder on here. So that this is level with this surface to here. We actually put a piece of metal across here and held it down, and that's how we marked. So when the wood sits, it's going to sit flat all the way down. It's pretty level. So, and you can actually see it follows the curve of the boat because of the separate nature of the aluminum. Now, I could probably take more aluminum out, make that even lighter, make it just a little angle, but that would have required more cutting that I didn't want to do. I'm really tired of aluminum dust. The compartments that are going to go in here are going to be a whole separate video. I've got some new material that I haven't seen anybody use for Jon Boat Build that's going to be super versatile and help me actually do this and do it very cleanly. I think this is untested, but should work. But here's a quick view of the boat from the front. These, let me step around here. I got my kerosene heater going, so I can't stand. You see that angle where these two spread out and come to a point here? So that's why I had to put this support in here. Just the gap is just too wide. You can see that's parallel, and that's parallel, and that one in the middle is not. It had to spread out because in the back had to be open enough to drop the two batteries in, and then also give me access around the batteries to the charger, which is going to be mounted under here, back around to the rod locker. So that's the, I'm forgetting. So how was I able to put a ladder section in there, right? And I don't have any material on top, so that is perfectly level. What I was able to do is mount it through the bottom. Let's come down underneath and look. So what you have there is once again, I cut the ladder up and reused the ladder to make a bracket. I can't see the phone screen. I don't know how that's coming in, but basically that's this section of the ladder, and I cut it off of here. So I just had a plate, and I basically made an aluminum mending plate, and I ran sheet metal screws into that section and into the bottom of this section. It was a little bit of a pain. I had to hold the drill upside down and run the screws in, but I do use self-tapping stainless steel, so they will cut their way through and then thread themselves, and they will not back out. Guys, I've never had one of those rip free out of anything. It's really good. Did the same thing over here, not super clean, but mending plate that holds that support in, and is one on the other side. Again, that's not really clean, but this section right here is just going to be the foot control, the foot pedal recess. This is not a hatch, and that's a hatch, and that's a hatch, and they're going to be divided. They're going to be lined. You're not going to see the boat in the hatch, and that's, you know, to keep everything contained. So those screws poking out, they're really poking out into a dead area, and I really wasn't concerned about them either way. Okay, that space they're in is not usable. This piece of ladder, now why is there a piece of ladder, not a whole ladder? Because I ran out of ladder. I didn't have any more ladder to use that was that size. I did put a piece of aluminum angle under there just to make sure it doesn't drop down at all. And for this compartment, this will be trimmed out. You won't see that gap, and this will be plenty enough for that seat, for that bench hatch to sit on. I won't step here. It's possible to step here when I take the seat down, totally possible. So we're going to support it all the same. But my seat is, pedestal seat is here, foot control here. This is a gap in between. My left foot will be on that rail. If I'm doing it with the left foot, my right foot will be on this rail. So I'm not really worried about this area. But again, that's plenty of purchase to support that seat. Bears mentioning one more time, this is a budget build. So I did piece it together out of materials that were available to me on the budget, and I think that functionality wise I will be every bit as functional as any other tiny boat out there. I didn't put the ladder supports on this left side, which is actually the right side, but well, starboard, but this piece of wood is continuous all the way across here to there. So I'm not relying on the wood mounting on this edge. I can put the screws anywhere in this material, and over here I'm only talking an inch up here, and then maybe 3 inches at its widest point right here. That's not going to fall off. That wood is supported by 15 inches of wood off to the side of it. So I didn't need the support there. I did need the support there because we're just mounting a 3-inch strip of wood down the side of that ladder, and it wasn't going to hold. The plan is to bring the deck and the hatches all the way back even to this line, and then clean that up with a trim panel coming down, on top of the rod locker, and then this opening up. So when I cut this rod locker, I'm probably gonna have to leave an inch or an inch and a half just to make certain that I don't have any clearance issues when opening and closing this side against that carpeted trim panel. So I do think that I'm gonna have to put aluminum ladder supports in here. So that'll be closer to the water line, but it will still be above the water line. So not worried about it. I put 4 supports in back here. This one and that one, this will be a hatch. That will be solid, and then that will be a hatch. That side is gonna have the gas tank, and then right up against the transom support will be the bilge pump. And you can see I've already drilled a hole through the ladder and the hull to run the through hole fitting for the bilge pump. Back here, I do need to put some supports for the hatch lid across here so that it's not just open. So those are coming. That's part of the 2% that still needs to be done. Over here will be storage for my co-angler or my son, whoever happens to be in the boat. Typically, it's my son. Over there is what's going to be the rod locker. That piece of ladder that's fallen over is the bottom of that wall, the wall that's facing here. See if I can get a shot of it. You see that blue line? That's where I'm going to cut through the bench to make the pass through for the rod locker. So I've got 4 feet from the rear deck up to that bench, and then the rest of the other 4 feet of rod will go underneath that side of the boat, underneath those supports, and there will be no hatches on that side of the boat. And that's pretty much it, guys. Super quick. I had some help doing this. It took me about 2 full days to get everything in, and a lot of that time was spent just talking through, trying to figure out how to do what. Right? Like, where do we want to mount it? What makes sense on spacing? Where the hatch is going to go? How are we going to support it? There's a lot of time spent figuring that out. There's no plan here. There are no blueprints for something like this, and every boat is a little different. So, yep. But that's almost 36 full feet of aluminum, but I only paid $50 for it and put 2 of those together. If the bracket fails, there's your weak point, but the floor joist itself, man, that's going to hold 600-700 pounds, way more than a boat can handle. So if you're a bigger person, this might be the way to go for you too. And again, guys, like I said, hope you enjoyed the video. Ask questions below. My framing is super simple and quick and easy and sturdy. But I'm on to the next part now that we're completely framed out. Now it's time to start figuring out the electrical and cutting open that rod locker. So, all right. See you guys.